Welcome to the MVP Show. Today we're chatting with Keith Whatling. Besides being a Microsoft Business Applications MVP, Keith is recognized in the community as one of the earliest and best PowerApps developers out there. So join me today as we get to know Keith and listen to his thoughts on matters all around PowerApps and becoming an MVP. Full show notes can be found at nz365guy.com/127. Now, let's get on with the show. Hey Keith, welcome to the show.
Hey Mark, how are you?
Good mate, good mate. Good to have you on here. It's I've watched your progress over the last couple of months. You're very active in the community, so it's great to finally get you on here.
Yeah, man, it's been good fun. Thanks for having me.
Good. So I saw a tweet the other day which showed Charles Lamanna holding up a big poster with your name on it. That's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, that was one of those little internally things. They wanted to have some of the PowerApps champs back to the team at Microsoft and just kind of like say what we do a bit more in detail than we can share with the community. But it was lovely because we spend so much time talking about PowerApps in the community and to one another. We forget there's a whole bunch of people making a Power Platform at Microsoft, and they're kind of looking from this bulletproof piece of glass with the old Microsoft sanitized tweet window on it. And it's just nice to kind of like turn around to people there and say, hey, look, this is what I do with it. This is why it's great. And this is why you're doing an awesome job. So I love that kind of stuff, man. It's just the best.
Awesome. So how long have you been an MVP now?
Since May even. So that's what, 2 and a bit months, I think, 3 months.
Oh my gosh, it feels so much longer.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Wow, that's incredible. And tell me about what are your thoughts on becoming an MVP? Were you happy to become an MVP?
Yeah, I was happy to become an MVP. I had a lot of thoughts about whether I wanted to do it or not, because I don't generally do well with kind of like the whole concept of an NDA. Not from a you can't talk about it standpoint, but I just don't like closed doors, and I don't like the idea that someone knows a hell of a lot more than I know. So I'm much more of a community's about community and putting this kind of like this closed club down. And I didn't want it. And a lot of people have said, it's kind of a little bit of an old boys club, and I'm a bit of a kind of warrior for not having those things. so yeah, but it was if you're gonna be a part of it, and you can generally sort of say stuff to hopefully change it. So it's early days yet, Mark. We'll see what happens, mate. To be honest.
Yeah, I've definitely seen in recent years a lot of change in that respect, and each time they let a few MVPs go, it definitely changes the dynamics. And of course, the last intakes have seen a lot of new faces come into the program with new perspectives and new views. So I think it'll be under constant evolution. Yeah,
I mean, it's a bit weird for me because I'm not a consultant, I'm not a freelance, I'm not a this that. I work for a business, and it's very different because what does it bring to me? It's more what I bring to it. So it's just,
yeah. That's interesting. You say you're not a consultant and therefore you don't qualify because there's no criteria for being a consultant, in the MVP program. And I think the reason there's a domination or a dominance of consultants is purely because consultants realize the value of the MVP to their careers and having it, and therefore do a lot to make sure that they are engaging with the community, adding value, because there's also that byproduct spin-off that it's an enhancement to their careers. But there's definitely no requirement that you need to work for a Microsoft partner as a consultant to become an MVP.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I always think of Hiro down in Japan. And he doesn't even do PowerApps for a living. It's just a hobby. So I kind of jump on that bandwagon a bit.
It's really about two things. One is a passion for the community, and then that it's focused around a technology area. In this case, for you, PowerApps and the suite of applications that forms a Power Platform. And so I think we're going to see a lot of changes in the coming months and years to the mix, if you like, in the community as more and more people like you, if you like, that, you know, come from customer side, that have fallen in love with a bit of tech and see how it can change your business.
Honestly, Mark, you know, sitting there in customer land, right? What I see is I go to a lot of these events, and there's a whole bunch of people there, and they're normally like, you know, normally it's the same group of people, right? But it's usually they're from a partner, or they're an independent consultant, an ISV or something like that. And I think that's really sad, because like occasionally you get someone from, you know, a business come along, and I think a lot of people in businesses don't realise that A, these things exist, and B, that they're allowed to go. I think they think that they have to have permission to go, and I think that's really sad. And I know I've taken a few people from my business along to a couple of these events, and it's completely, you know, blown them away. Hanging around a bunch of people that have got a real can-do attitude. And that was the number one thing that they took away. It wasn't kind of like this piece of the technology stack. It wasn't this new cool piece of tech. It was much more the attitude, the community, the ethos. That was the thing that kind of like, you know, that really came across. You know, going on, if you take someone to MBAS, they come back just absolutely full of energy, and there's no reason why they can't do anything. You know, it's like the gloves are off almost straight away.
Yeah. It's interesting too. And Microsoft, you know, only the Power Platform, this is a crazy thing. It was only first used publicly, the term, March last year. Right? It wasn't in existence prior to that point as in a formal name like that. And, you know, it's Microsoft bringing these technologies together. So I think to a degree, the reason that it has been very partner centric and not customer centric, and customers not been aware, is partly we're at the start of a bell curve, right? We're really at the formation time of this new tech becoming mainstream in the market.
I think so. I think the more people, and it's, you know, never was it more true than doing I think it was a Dynamic Saturday, right? And there's Samit Martin and I, and we're all about to go into a room of people, and Samit Martin and I, we're all very kind of like the same. You know, we work for a business. You know, we don't really have like this huge IT acumen behind us, some more than others, but we were looking out over the over Paddington at the Microsoft building, and I could see some of the flats that I used to knock when I used to do door-to-door sales, right? And I was thinking to myself, I'm going to go in and talk to a bunch of people who are consultants, who are all, you know, kind of got computer science degrees or have been in the industry for a long time. And I was standing there talking. I said, well, how do we get the guy that like, or the girl that manages that block of flats down there, and how do we get like that person who's just cut the grass, and how do we, you know, these other businesses that are sitting down there, you know, the little car business that's you can kind of see across the road, and you think to yourself, right, they're the people who I really want to talk to. They're the ones who I really want to grab hold of and say, look, we are like you, rather than going into a room full of people and saying, you're not like us, but we can explain to you why we can do what you can do, which was kind of a bit like, it does sort of fall on deaf ears. And although you've got, you know, the wonder of Samit and Martin and all the incredible stuff that they've done, and it's a lovely, lovely, lovely story, it might touch them, but it doesn't like G them up into thinking that they can do it, because what you really want to do is go and find a person who's pushing the trolleys around the Sainsbury's car park and say to them, look, you know, other supermarkets are available. Look, you can go and do this. And there's nothing stopping you at all.
Yeah, so true. And that brings up something else you and I have discussed, which is not understanding the beginner's mindset.
Yeah, that's number one, man. Like that's like the first thing when you become an expert in something. The first thing you forget is what beginner looks like. You know, it's so easy to do. It's so easy to become dismissive of what that thing is, and it, like, you know, it's easy to grab that mouse when you're sitting there training someone. It's just so easy, just like, give me the mouse. You know, I can do it for you. And you got to get over that. And beginners a really tough time. really, really tough time because you've got people coming from all over the spectrum across various. I mean, never was it more true. I used to way, way, way back when in the late 90s, I used to teach 3D computer graphics, right? And I had these mad evening classes, and I had like people who come in who were IT whiz kids, right? Wanted to do like amazing stuff and like build these amazing. And then I had these other group of people who were artists, you know, and in the same room. And the artists are like tech level zero. And I never forget someone just sitting there wondering, like looking at the mouse, going, I don't like right click. What does that mean? They were used to using a Mac, and and even then, there was another guy just had never used a computer before, really. But by give him a couple of weeks, and the guy who was a really good sort of people's drawer. He was making all these incredible faces and these incredible kind of like I remember this dinosaur head he made, like absolutely unbelievable. But the tech guys are down the other end, like playing with all the settings and playing with the like trying to get it to do this clever thing and that clever thing, and they're just bringing that sort of beginner bit together. You've got to address beginner in different ways for every individual, and that's where it gets really, really tough.
How do we address that beginner's mindset then within the Power Apps arena?
I think like even though Power Apps is really straightforward, like I perceive it as being straightforward, to some people it's an incredibly difficult thing to grasp. Like, so there's two bits. There's people who have got no app building experience whatsoever, and there's people who have got some app building experience, right? And if they've got an app building experience, 9 times out of 10, they come to it with this kind of like empirical code kind of view, where you've got to bear in mind that Power Apps is declarative. Now, even just saying that out loud, right, it disqualifies a whole bunch of people. Like, they don't understand what that means. And even some of the coders who have got a little bit of experience aren't going to understand what that means. Personally, what I'd love to see is Clippy coming back into Excel and saying, "Hey, look, it looks like you're trying to build some sort of data capture, some sort of app. This is where you need to go, and this is where you need to go, which is the Power Platform. Go and try that out." But also, like when we do these sessions, just understanding that maybe like app in a day could be for more than one group of people. So it could be like, right, all the people who have got no app building experience are on one side of the room, and all the people who are kind of like technologically savvy on the other. And that way you can build it. But I tell you, for now, I've seen people with zero skill build better apps than super tech people, and vice versa. So it all depends on what you're coming from.
I realised I got underway without really formally introducing you. So just tell us a bit about where you're from and what you've got an accent there that seems very British to me. So give me some background.
Well, you want my background, Mark? I'm not sure. I'm sure the police will come and come knocking on my door when they find out that they lost track of me. Let's see. No, I don't know, man. I mean, I've been in and out of tech for years. Like I started with my BBC Micro at 7, and just mucked around. Like, I was the kid in school who'd rather play with a computer than pay attention in any other lesson, and consequently I didn't. So I ended up in a college doing electrical installation, and there was this computer. I'll never forget it, man. This computer's hooked up to like this Betacam, this huge like video player, and this huge 1-speed CD writer, which was like the size of a VCR. And like a big 1980s VCR, and it was playing this 3D computer graphics. And I know I'd like loved that since BBC and Elite, and like kind of when I was doing my BBC, I was making music and doing all the kind of content creation stuff. And I just saw it, and I was like, I argued to get on the course. I wasn't eligible to get on the course, but I argued and fought, and I got on it. And then, like a year in, all the teachers were leaving because they couldn't they were getting stupid job offers to go and do multimedia at kind of places. And there was one guy that stayed, and he couldn't be there to teach everything. So in the end, the second years ended up teaching the first years, and I ended up teaching the night classes as well. And then we went off to do some other teaching elsewhere, doing like work in the community, going out and and that was my first sort of exposure to community, as it were, was going out off to teach people who were job seekers and kind of trying to do a job transition through a sort of a charity government funded startup in Edmonton. And if you know Edmonton, it's not the nicest of places in the world. Sorry for all the people who live there. But yeah, it's pretty rough, and it was pretty rough back then as well. And yeah, like, I kind of bumbled around a bit. I went off and did a bit of traditional graphic design. Although that sort of lifestyle didn't really suit me, that freelancer lifestyle at the time, and then ended up in like doing some training software for banking, like making interfaces for that, and then the dot-com bubble burst, and we all got made redundant, and I knocked on doors for a bit, and then went and drove a bus. Yeah.
And so what was your foray? I'm sure this is well documented. Just give us the 1 second view. How did you start with PowerApps?
I clicked on the purple button.
In what application or on what browser?
What browser? I think it was Chrome.
No. So what? So how did you end up at that website? How did you end up at that website?
Well, my mate had said, like, why don't you have a look at forms online, like Microsoft Forms. I looked at it. Didn't do context sensitivity. Didn't do a whole bunch of things I wanted to. And then, like, there was this PowerApps button, and I clicked on it, and I was like, "Oh, that looks hard." So I turned it off, and a week later, I came back to it, and I can't even remember like what. I didn't do app in a day. I just downloaded. I took one of their apps, I took it apart, and I put one together, and that was great fun, man. That was.
And that was it. You got hooked.
Yeah, that was it. Like, once you figure out how one of their pro-built apps works, even then they were pretty rough. Like, the templates. You kind of really you get a feel for it, and then you just like the docs are brilliant. Like, they're some of the best docs ever, and they've got examples of how to do it. And it's a lot better than like that kind of traditional, looking down a barrel of a gun sort of thing at some of these, like a Python and all that kind of stuff. When you're kind of looking at the code in samples for that, this has actually got some sort of relevance and consistency.
So how long ago was this? So when you clicked on the purple button?
I think it was late 2016, early 2017. It had just kind of gone GA, and I was bumbling around, and then kind of like they've got that whole telemetry thing where they see people doing cool stuff with apps, and that's where the PowerApps Champion thing came about.
And can you explain just a little bit about what the PowerApps Champion program is?
Yeah. So I mean, it's awesome. Like, you can really see Microsoft's vision for the future here. So they've got some anonymous telemetry of what users do. They don't know who they are. They reach out to the business and find out. But yeah, so they kind of like, they're watching, as it were, and they're looking at sort of, I don't know if it's how many apps or what the apps do. Couldn't tell you. But you get a little kind of drop down at the top, says, hey, do you want to be part of the Champions program, the PowerApps Champions program? And if you say yes, and your company's okay with that, you get like kind of indoctrinated into a little closed group. Everyone's under NDA, which is great because it means that we can talk about our problems openly. I don't know what the last count was, but I know it's in the hundreds. And then a few of us got made carded champions, so you get a little baseball card if you're happy to sort of talk about it publicly at a conference and stuff. So I mean, it's awesome because in that closed group, people can be themselves, and people can talk about their real, they can post real code and all that kind of stuff, and people can help one another fix it. But it's also about, adoption and governance and all that good juicy stuff.
Yeah, very good. So then how did the MVP come on your radar? How did that become something that, because I mean, the Champs program's a separate program, pretty awesome, get a lot of one-on-one time with Microsoft and things. So how did the MVP thing then come on your radar?
It's Samit's fault, man.
Oh, is that right?
It's all Samit's fault. Yeah, because he kept telling me that I should be an MVP. and then like, I just thought, yeah, whatever, like, not for me, closed group, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. But you're already in a closed group because the Champs program's very...
I was. It was a closed group, but, it's closed for a reason.
The carded Champs, I don't think would fill a deck of cards, right?
No, I get that. Like, 100% get that, Mark. You call my bluff. Well done. But it wasn't, it was kind of a little bit like... we were just we didn't really understand it, so we were just kind of going for it. But
has it opened any doors since having it for you?
None. No,
no,
I don't think so. No.
Would you hand it in tomorrow?
What, over the champions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather be a champion than an MVP, because I love my champs. Like, they're my best friends and my buddies, and it means that group means the world. Like, MVP, wonderful, love it to pieces. Like, it's an absolute honor and all that kind of thing. But that champions thing's special. Like, I love them. Like, they're my friends. And
who do you reckon's who's been the key instigator from Microsoft's side, in your view, of the Champs program?
I think it's probably Surab Pant and Samir Bankar from the customer advisory team.
Yeah, the CAT team.
The Power Cat team. And just like it's this, it's hard to explain. It's this kind of like warm hug of a thing, you know. When we first met at the MBAS last year, at the original MBAS, there was a bunch of us got asked out there to speak, and we tried to walk probably about quarter of a mile to see something on the day before the event. We were just going to go and like do a little bit of sightseeing. It took us 2 hours. Because every other step we were just stopping and just talking about stuff, like, you know, just like sharing we honestly couldn't get anywhere. It took us ages to get anywhere.
As in because of this group of people that were in that program.
Yeah.
That is
not just because of the people, but like none of us had ever done community before in a big way, or even like, you know, outside of our bit. We just had the little champs group. We were chatting that, you know. But it was just mind blowing, you know, and there was so many incredible people there, and you know, there was the guys from SNCF and Michelle and Samit and Martin and Nick Gill, you know, and Jonathan from and all the rest of those guys, you know, just having it, like, you know, Eric McKinney, hanging around with Eric McKinney. I mean, good God, like, you know, you're gonna have a great time, aren't you? So we were just like. It was just incredible, you know, and listening to Samit's story, listening to Martin's story, and that kind of like that whole dyslexia thing, that whole struggle with everything, and I was just like, man, that was just so me, and I can be, you know, I don't feel, I feel part of the group. I don't feel like I'm struggling to be part of the group, and MVP is very much like, still don't feel like I belong there yet.
Interesting. What do you, in your view, what do you think needs to happen for the MVP program to modernize?
Oh, I don't know, man. That's a big question.
I know that's why I'm asking you, mate. As in, I know you're a thinker. You can come up with some answers.
Well, you know, what does it mean? It needs to start talking to people who, like, there's a whole bunch of super passionate people who I truly love and respect in that group of people. Like, you know, Peter Venstra, he nominated me. I'll come out and say, because, you know, the guy just kind of like out of nowhere, just boom, and nominated. I was like, well, do I really want to do that? And okay, right, I'll just load everything in and see what happens. You know, we'll just chuck everything. But I think what it needs to do to change from my perspective, is I very much struggle to find other me's in that world, right? So like those MVPs are just like, they're so technologically adept. They're so like, you know, been programming for 3 million years, or, you know, done 20 years in this and 20 years in that. And it's really tricky for someone like me to come at it from the Power Platform and say, well, this thing's only been around for 2 years. And some of the original sort of like Power Platform MVPs, they were already SharePoint MVPs, already Dynamics MVPs, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's and then there's that whole kind of like competition thing. And if you've got a job and you've got kids and all the rest of it, it's incredibly difficult to try and fit it all in.
What do you mean by competition?
Well, it just seems that, like, you know, you got all this contribution stuff. You just feel under tremendous pressure to keep that up, and it's like, right, okay, you know, you've used all your holiday up at work and everything, and you're like, and your wife's looking at you saying, right, we need to take the kids away, and you're like, well, how am we going to do that then? So
no, you definitely got to maintain the balance, and find a way to create balance.
We'll see what happens, man. Like, it's early days, and if it who knows, mate? Who knows? What I do like about it is that it seems to be an excuse for people to talk to me, and I love that. It seems to be an excuse for people to come up and ask me a question, and if that badge enables that to happen, and it enables me to help more people, then it's the best thing that's ever happened ever. And that's what I want it for. I don't want it for anything else other than that. It's like, if you got a Power Platform question, ask Keith. He'll jump on a call with you. He's happy to unblock you. Do you know what I mean? Like that. If that was my strap line, that's my strap line.
I like it. Well, our time's almost over. I've got a couple of quick fire questions for you. You ready?
Go on in.
Okay. What's the one thing you like that creeps other people out?
Japanese cartoons.
Oh, okay.
Creeps my wife out. Can't understand it.
Which celebrity do you shamelessly follow in the news?
None of them. I don't have time, dude.
What's the last product you returned?
Whoa. What is the last product? I don't return anything.
Mm-hmm. No, I would struggle. When I was thinking.
Yeah, man. What was the last product I returned? God, I don't even know. Oh, I know. Yeah. I know exactly what I returned. Some 20mm conduit lug nuts.
Why were they wrong size?
Sorry, 20mm conduit glands. Because I bought the wrong thing.
Were they meant to be 35mm or something?
No, it was. I got this thing about wires on the exterior of houses, and I like everything in conduit. What can I say?
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I like it nice and tidy. I've done a whole bunch of electrical wiring in my past life, so I know what you mean.
Yeah, me too.
What would your rap name be?
G Ninja.
G Ninja.
G Ninja. Yeah, definitely.
Why?
Ginger Ninja.
Ginger Ninja.
Ginger Ninja. Yeah, G Ninja. Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
Keith, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. If people want to get hold of you online, they want to follow you, that type of thing, where can they find you?
At Keith Whatling on Twitter.
At Keith Whatling, as in
WH. Yeah.
WHALT.
WH. Yeah.
LING.
ATNING. Yeah, that's the one.
Does H come from England? Because Australians say H, but in New Zealand we're always taught to say it as H, not H.
Oh, I don't know, man. Like, don't. Like, I've only just learned to spell. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
You're asking me difficult questions like that.
I've never learnt to spell. I tell you, if it wasn't for Grammarly and spell check, I would.
Grammarly is a godsend.
Totally.
Absolute godsend.
Totally. Tells me where to put the commas in the right places and things like that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Well, if anyone wants to follow you, what was that again?
At Keith Whatling on Twitter. I got a little YouTube channel, and I'm on LinkedIn as well, but I don't do that as much. Twitter's where it's at, man.
Hey, thanks for listening. So I know that there are many of you that have been following our show because you want to become an MVP as well. I'd like to hear from you. Do you have questions that have been itching to get asked by a guest? If so, let me know. I invite you to drop me a note in the comments below and let me know your questions or thoughts on the show. And if you like this episode, please don't forget to hit the social media icon and share this with your friends. Full show notes, as always, can be found at nz365guy.com/127. See you next week.